Thank you. All right, without further ado, I call this meeting to order. The first thing and the only thing on the agenda today is House Bill 586, the Kindergarten Preparedness Program Act. Can we have Representative Clark? Oh, excuse me, before that. Vice Chairman, would you please call roll?
Yes. Representative Wills? Present. Representative Pence? Present. Representative Rugel?
Present.
Representative Horman? Present. Representative DeMorton?
Present. All right, without further ado, may I also request that everyone please silence their cell phones and pay attention to those who we have testifying today. We really appreciate you supporting and coming out in favor of the legislative process and being here. Let's go ahead and call Representative High Clock to introduce and sponsor and testify for House Bill 586.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, thank you for hosting this hearing today. I am High Clock, representative of District 16 with nearly 37,000 residents stretching to the edge of the foothills of Eagle and surrounding the banks of the Boise River. I am here today to present House Bill number 586, Early Childhood and Development Act. As a member of the Education Committee, a former teacher, and a proud Idahoan, I stand here to make a call for an investment in our current families and future leaders. This bill initiates a pre-kindergarten pilot program giving elementary schools the opportunity to start a voluntary kindergarten preparedness class. The State Board of Education will choose 5 public elementary schools from a pool of applicants. The trial period will last 3 years. This will generate local data, giving us, as Idahoans, the opportunity to revisit funding and the potential for ceasing or expanding the program. My good friend, Chef Gary Rainey of Ada County states, investment in the pre-K bill offered a better return for Idaho than spending on prison beds. A statewide pre-kindergarten system could save the state tens of millions of dollars a year in correction costs. And he's right, it's quite an opportunity for us. For every dollar that we invest in this program, we will see a return of $7 to $13. And that data is provided to us by the Ann Casey Foundation. Not only does the Early Childhood Development Act have the support of law enforcement, the private sector has taken great interest. As I have engaged in discussions with businesses and their leaders, I have already secured over $750,000. As promised, no less than 55% of the cost of this bill will be covered by the private sector. This means that we, as the legislature, as Idaho taxpayers, will pay 45% or less of this bill. This proves the commitment and support of our communities. It also mitigates the financial burden the bill would have on the state. Committee members, I recently had a conversation with Sally Maverick, a young mother of 2. Sally talked to me about the importance of education and all the dreams she and her husband have for their children. As we discussed the bill, she was curious about her role in the preschool program. I was delighted to tell her about the parental clauses of the bill. Upon acceptance into the pre-kindergarten program, Mr. and Mrs. Maverick would be given an orientation kit that includes informative documents, pamphlets, books that they could read to their child later on in the day or for years to come. Sally, or her husband, would also have the opportunity to observe the classroom, even volunteer within the room as she desired. I let her know that there were training sessions and programs offered to her available upon request. In the Act, a teacher is also required to meet twice a year with every child's family. I believe this ensures the collaboration between family and their education their child is receiving. I believe this ensures that education. With this bill, we have to start somewhere. If there are members of the committee that think the samples are too small, know that we must be willing to give more funding in order to do such, to make it bigger. Chair, committee members, I've gone to the people we represent, the families, the business owners, teachers, mothers, fathers, the mavericks, and the children they are trying to raise. They have all given resounding support, both verbally and financially. Our bill caters to the continuum of families, whether they are working and cannot be with their children, they want to volunteer in the classroom, or they want to continue to teach the children in their own home or in the private sector. We have reviewed the data that tells us that every dollar invested in early education will return $7 to $13, and that's money that we don't have to pay and we can use on other measures. I'm here with my friends across the aisle. Representative Hansey of District 34, Representative Van Orden of District 31, Representative Perry, and all of these districts represent 182,000 Idahoans. Let their voices be heard. I am joined by Ms. Oppenheimer, the Executive Director of the Association of the Education of Young Children, and Leanne Simmons, the Executive Director of the Idaho Voice for Children. We have come together today to share our passion for the development of Idaho. We recognize the influence of a strong foundation to children and future leaders. We want to use this pre-kindergarten pilot program to gather data, to serve our constituents and those who have offered support in favor. An investment in this voluntary education program and is an investment in our children and an investment in Idaho's future. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Clark. If you can actually come back up to the podium, I believe some of the members of the committee may have some questions for you.
Prepared, just how to adjust my beard.
Mr. Chairman, would Representative Clark yield a question?
Representative Clark, will you yield?
Mr. Chairman, question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Representative Clark, there's been a lot of support about this bill in my district. However, how do you suggest I respond to those who are opposed to this bill? What could I tell them to inform them of the benefits?
Yes, we're great to hear the support. First, to let your district know that this is a pilot program, that we don't have enough local data to know how the children will develop, and that this is what we want to do. And as we gather that data, we can show those numbers to your district. Also know the questions of funding again, and know that the private sector is prepared to pay 55% or more of the costs, and I have already talked to those groups, and they are ready to support and back this investment.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Representative Clark. Other committee members?
Mr. Chairman, will Representative Clark yield to a question?
Representative Clark, will you yield again?
Chairman, thank you, Representative. I'll yield.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Clark, you stated in your summary that a school or a district can apply to be selected. Which is it, a preschool or a district?
So we do not want to have more than one preschool per district because it is such a limited sampling number. So we will have at least 5 districts represented, 5 pre-kindergarten classrooms in those districts.
A follow-up question, Mr. Chair.
Representative Clark, will you yield again?
Chairman, Representative.
Within the school district, how will it be determined what preschool is selected? Is there a standard an affluent neighborhood with a more affluent preschool population compared to a more low-income population?
Again, we will leave that to the education department if this bill does pass. And we can get further details.
Thank you.
Any other committee members? I actually have a question for Representative Clark.
Chairman?
I have to admit that I am very glad that you included options for parental involvement in your preschool program's first draft of this bill. However, I have to admit that I do have some large reservations about the size of the sampling and the size of the pilot program expansion. And of course, you mentioned that additional funding would be necessary to create a larger implementation scale, but considering that pre-kindergarten, or excuse me, kindergarten programs preparing children for elementary school are supposed to be hailed as, the end to any educational problems within Idaho in the last few years, and we have seen fade out in that as well, and we have seen the similar educational problems persist with children being unable to, maintain higher education standards, go on to college, go on to other post-secondary options. Not only am I concerned that this is a similar situation where we will see a lot of fade out happen, but the size of this program is hard to make a good argument for, being able to accurately use that data to represent the entirety of Idaho. We're talking about 3 out of 114 school districts in the state, and a very few number of preschools within those districts. And then you're claiming to use this data to be able to justify expanding the pilot program or an additional program even further. I'm just very concerned about, misrepresentation, illusions in the data, an incorrect method of expanding this program that is based on assumptions and error. Can you persuade me against any of those, or do you have any way of assaying those fears?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the question, Chairman. As you know, this isn't the first time pre-kindergarten education bill has come up, and it won't be the last time. And the problems with the previous bills is that they did cost too much money. And though their sampling sizes were bigger, we saw the funding as a reason to deny education. And so I'm here today to scale down the previous bills in order to get something passed, in order to get something started. And I think that's what we really want to do here. You mentioned making sure that the data is clear, and we are prepared to represent a number of districts and know that the limit is set by our current price. Know that if we are able to receive more private funding, that we will be able to implement that in more public education systems.
Thank you, Representative Clark. If there are no other questions...
Mr. Chairman, I do have another question.
Yes. Representative Clark, will you yield?
Chairman, Representative?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Clark, is it true that this is a public-private partnership?
That is correct.
I want to thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Representative, thank you so much.
All right. Seeing no other questions, thank you, Representative Clark. The committee will now call Representative Julie Van Orden. Okay. Representative Clark, is there a certain order that you would wish supporters of your bill to testify in?
Yes. We would like to have Representative Perry proceed next.
Representative Van Orden, is that all right with you?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The committee will now call Representative Christy Perry to testify.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, esteemed members of the committee. As you all know, my name is Representative Christy Perry, and I stand here on behalf of District 13. As you also may know, I am a woman of tradition, a mother of 3, a gun owner, and to be honest, I am a damn proud Republican. Yet, I stand here today, arm in arm with Representative Clock, because as I stated, any piece of legislation that decreases taxes and increases educational opportunities for our youth deserves to be heard. So today I stand for my constituents who are fearful of our school district's rising dropout rates. Studies show that 20% of Idaho's 9th graders will drop out of school by their senior year. Meanwhile, studies show that pre-kindergarten education significantly increases the likelihood of a student to acquire a high school diploma or their GED. Pre-K programs have also been found to heighten proficiency rates in math and reading. Now, legislators, this data should be of incredible interest to all of you, especially when considering that our great state is currently ranked 48th in the nation when it comes to education. Aside from this bill's educational value, when I chose to co-sponsor this bill, I was largely drawn to its economic advantages. It is important to be cognizant of the inextricable connection between a lack of education and crime rates. The cost of corrections in Idaho is mind-blowing. And Ada County Sheriff Gary Rainey asserts that pre-K education could decrease crime rates by 20%. Now, this is important because from 2007 to 2008, 42% of Idaho's inmates did not receive a GED. Meanwhile, Idaho is spending $20,000 per year per inmate. Now, this number is 3 times the amount of tax dollars that Idaho spends per year per student on education. So I say that we need to re-examine our priorities. Well, I know that many of you on the committee are likely thinking, why pre-K? Why should tax dollars be spent on pre-kindergarten education? And my answer is simple. Pay now, or you will pay later. This bill would provide a voluntary program with proven success. According to High Scope Perry, a nonprofit independent education research foundation, students who attend preschool are more likely not only to attain a high school diploma, but to be employed, to own a home, and to have a savings account. High Scope Perry also reports that students who have access to pre-K education have a higher median annual income and are less likely to repeat courses or require special education. So indeed, pre-kindergarten education has been recognized as a community investment. With the permission of the chair, I would actually like to provide a chart on the costs in comparison to the benefits that will be yielded by passing this legislation.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
Now, what you will be seeing in this chart is that ultimately there's a bar recognizing the costs in comparison to the overall growth. You'll see it broken down in comparison to education costs, welfare, and then the largest, of course, being crime corrections in that area. Now, I would like to also highlight that I know that some of the individuals on the committee may be concerned about the notion of this being, outside the boundaries of government. And I think that that's really important to look first to the voluntary aspect of this so that we can gain a greater sense of what we can do to improve education. And that's why, again, we're looking primarily to a pilot study program. Not only that, I would like to point out that there have been a variety of conservative states that have enacted similar legislation: Oklahoma, Florida, Georgia, Michigan. And so while I do support the notion that we need to look to local data for specifically citizens of Idaho, the only way we can do that is through this pilot program. Thus, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I urge you to stand up for your constituents who wants to see a decrease in welfare spending. Stand up for your constituent who wants to see a decrease in juvenile and correction spending. Stand up for your constituent who wants to increase the stability of Idaho's economy. The rate of return for public investment is simply too great to ignore. And as a final note, Mr. Chairman, in regards to your last concern, I would like to say that as a co-sponsor and speaking with the sponsor of the bill, we would be willing to look towards an amendment of this bill if you and the committee think that that would give it a greater chance, because we are that passionate about education of our youth and possible economic stability. And with that, I yield for questioning.
I appreciate your willingness to compromise, Representative Perry.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Representative Perry.
Representative Perry, will you yield?
Yes, Chairman, Representative Rubel.
Representative Perry, as you self-proclaimed yourself as being a woman of tradition, can you please address the issue of kindergarten preparedness being left in the home?
Well, again, yes, Mr. Chairman, Representative Rubel, I would say that ultimately, again, this is a voluntary program, meaning that, again, my constituents who are interested in homeschooling, they still have that opportunity. Similarly, it still provides others the opportunity to keep education within the home.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Perry. Are there any other questions from the committee?
I have a question, Chairman. Would Representative Perry yield to a question?
Will you yield?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Perry, as a fiscally conservative representative from Idaho Falls, I was wondering if you could possibly expand on the possible financial implications that would come from the implication of this program, specifically in regards to special education?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Harmon, in regards to special education, may I ask for clarification, Mr. Chairman?
You may. A follow-up, Representative Harmon?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Perry, I have come across some data as I've been studying the data for this bill, and I noticed that in some of it, it said that by possibly having this preschool program, it discusses how children would better be prepared for kindergarten or possibly not be misplaced in a special education program. So I was just wondering if you had anything to add to that.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Harmon, I would say that that is absolutely the case, and again, why I stand in firm support of this bill, because it actually helps us in costs as far as education goes in the long run. And I would like to say that, yes, as far as I stated, your students are less likely to repeat courses if they have pre-K education, and they are states that have enacted similar legislation spend significantly less on special education. And I'm sure that you could also, Beth Oppenheimer and our other representatives today would be more than willing to further address that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Perry. Do we have any other questions from the committee for the representative? All right, seeing no further questions, thank you. Next up, let's make sure I have my list in order with the sign-in sheet. Representative Doug Hansey.
Chairman, we would like to request that Leanne Simmons proceed next.
Granted.
Chairman, committee, good morning.
Welcome.
I'd like to thank the committee for letting me testify today. My name is Leanne Simmons, and I am a former member of the Caldwell City Council, the Caldwell Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, and more importantly, trustee of the Caldwell School Board, and I'm here to support House Bill 586. I am now currently the Executive Director of Idaho Voices for Children, after serving as Director of Education Initiatives for United Way of Treasure Valley for 6 years. I also currently serve on the Idaho Child Care Program Advisory Board, the Governor's Education Task Force Literacy Work Group, and am Idaho's lead for the campaign for grade level reading. As for pertinent education, I have a Bachelor's of Science degree in Recreation and Community Schools Administration. My organization, Idaho Voices for Children, has a mission to develop and promote child health, safety, and more importantly, education, and to prepare Idaho's children to succeed to secure a social and economic future for the citizens of the state of Idaho. Idaho Voices for Children is supported in part by U.S. Bank, Casey Family Programs, Bank of America Foundation, Treasure Valley YMCAs, Boys and Girls Clubs of Ada County, Catholic Charities of Idaho, Family Advocates, and Idaho Primary Care Association, among many others. And so I come before you with the breadth of knowledge and experience in education that is specific to Idaho's children and communities to ask for your support of this bill. Supporting this bill is an investment in Idaho's children today and Idaho's future tomorrow, and is not only a completely voluntary program for families and an important opportunity for our children, but also is compoundingly fiscally responsible. In terms of economic responsibility, the early education of our children during their most crucial stage of neural development is essential for future social and academic success. Social or soft skills are increasingly important to businesses in Idaho and the world in our changing economic climate, and these have shown to be elevated in children who receive pre-K education. Additionally, the academic benefits of educating our children during this stage compound. Not only has early education shown to reduce the number of funds required for special education in the public schools, but also proves to ensure a strong foundation for students during their progression throughout Idaho's public school system. Beyond our secondary schools, the poor rate of students going on to Idaho colleges could be improved and even ultimately result in higher paid jobs being fulfilled by Idaho citizens. So in conclusion, I support House Bill 586 as a chance to investigate this opportunity for Idaho's families, Idaho's children, and Idaho's future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Simmons. We really appreciate not only you being here today, but also how much work and effort you have put into this cause. The Education Committee definitely recognizes that. Do we have any questions from the committee for Ms. Simmons? Nope. Thank you, Ms. Simmons. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chairman and Board.
Representative Clark, who is next on your agenda?
We'd like Representative Julie Van Orden.
All right, Representative Orden, it is finally your time to shine.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and respected members of the committee. I am Representative Julie Van Orden from Scenic District 31, Bingham County, on the beautiful Snake River. I stand before you to proudly support House Bill 586, the Early Childhood and Education Act. As a member of this committee, I can speak of the incredible commitment to education in our great state. I presently serve as the chair of the Snake River School Board, and I think all esteemed members of this body recognize the importance of bipartisan support in preparing Idaho's children for success. According to the Idaho Department of Corrections fact sheet for 2014, there are 322 juveniles currently incarcerated in various institutions around the state of Idaho. Total expenses to keep a single child in one of these institutions cost the state approximately $213 per day. If we do the appropriate calculations, this totals about $68,500 a day for all of these incarcerated youth. We know that every dollar put towards early childhood education yields a return ranging from $7 to $13 per dollar invested. If we had invested the daily rate of $213 per incarcerated juvenile in early childhood education, not only would we have productive citizens, we would be seeing a long-term return investment of about $480,000 in one single day. The American Center for Progress, states, the body of research demonstrating clear benefits from preschool is mature and well established. 3 well-known longitudinal studies were among the first to establish the long-term and far-reaching impacts of early childhood education. The High-Scope Perry Preschool Project, the Chicago Child Parent Centers, or CPC program, and the Carolina Abecedarian Preschool Program. These studies provided intensive interventions with high standards and showed not only immediate academic gains, but also benefits into adulthood, such as the reduced need for public assistance, lower crime rates, and higher earnings. Let's also be completely clear that House Bill 586, Early Childhood and Development Act, is 55% funded by grants from the private sector. Economically investing in pre-K programs only makes sense not only for our children, but for the future economic state of Idaho. We also need to clarify and reiterate that this program is both a voluntary program and a pilot. We want to start establishing a body of research before spending unnecessary taxpayer dollars. Invest in strong communities and a strong economy. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, I believe we need to invest in schools and not jails.
Thank you very much, Representative Van Orden. Do we have any questions from the committee?
Chairman, I have a question. I was wondering.
Will you yield, Representative Van Orden?
Mr. Chair, Representative.
Mr. Chair, Representative Van Orden, I just heard you say, I may have misunderstood, but you were saying that you would like to do a pilot program before actually implementing a program so as to not spend taxpayer dollars. However, I believe when Representative Clark was presenting, he said that although you do have $750,000 from private sectors, you would also be needing taxpayers to pay 45% of this bill. So is that part of the actual implementation, or would that be part of the pilot, or maybe I'm just confused? Could you clarify, please?
Mr. Chair, Representative, I believe that is part of the pilot itself. I would need to double check and refer back to you.
Thank you, Representative Van Orden. I actually have a follow-up question if there are no other questions from the committee. All right. So Representative Perry mentioned, as well as you, how important early childhood education is for gaining long-term dollar gains fiscally in terms of how much is invested at an early childhood education level. My first question is, I'm assuming that this will only be for children, a certain age and upwards, so maybe 4 years old, 3.5 years old. Is that correct?
I believe that is correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. And wouldn't you agree that not only is pre-kindergarten education instrumental in ensuring those long-term gains, but also the quality of every 12 year or every one of the 12 years following that pre-kindergarten education? Wouldn't the quality of that education be also fundamental in ensuring how much of those gains are realized after an individual graduates into society, if you will?
Of course, we see the long-standing benefits of pre-K education programs. It helps economically, socially. We see gains in every aspect of a child who went through pre-K education. Their life is impacted for the positive.
All right, if you're comfortable with it, I suppose I should actually rephrase that question a little bit. My question is more of, wouldn't you agree that any type of quality pre-kindergarten program, in order to realize those long-term benefits, it's necessary for that program to be followed by a quality elementary, middle school, and high school education?
Mr. Chair, I believe that, of course, it needs to be followed by a quality educational program. I believe that all educational programs should be of quality, or starting a pre-K program and not being able to provide quality wouldn't be beneficial. All educational programs need to be quality.
All right, thank you so much, Representative Van Orden. Representative Clark is Representative Hansey next on your list. All right. The committee calls Representative Hansey, please. Yeah. Welcome, Representative Hansey.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, representatives, thank you for having me. My name is Doug Hansey, as all you may know, from District 34 of Rexburg, Idaho. I have come before you today in support of Bill number 586. I would first like to begin by asking you to close your eyes. Now imagine yourselves as a single mother of 4 children, 4 or 3 children, that has to work 4 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet. You become aware that your child is very bright and has the capability and has knowledge that you would like him or her to expand. Although due to the fact that you are a hardworking person and your children depend on you as their source of stability, you aren't able to develop and increase their knowledge. The knowledge of such children at that age. It is my belief that with the implementation of this bill, families will have the opportunity, if they choose to, have their child let me rephrase that, my apologies. Give your child the opportunity of increasing those learning abilities. I would furthermore like to add that this is merely a resource, an opportunity for those who would like to utilize it, not an obligation. If implemented, this would be a 3-year program as a bipartisan pilot program. As you may heard, 55% of the funds would come from private institutions if they choose to participate, and the rest from the state. This program shall allow school districts to volunteer and participate if they wish to do so. My apologies.
I believe that this bill will produce long-term effects. According to the Center of Public Education, a study was conducted that placed randomly selected children in a preschool program. The results showed that 77% of children were able to produce results in educational proceedings and earnings, as opposed to those 66% that did not attend preschool. Again, this is a choice and opportunity and not an obligation. I believe the decision of child education belongs to the parents. Although that does not mean we cannot provide the resource and provide parents with the choice for their children's education. Lastly, I would like to add that I am largely in support of this bill. I believe in the benefit in regards to the future of Idaho. I believe it will create future leaders for a greater tomorrow, and I stand behind it 100%, regardless of the fact that I may not get reelected. I feel that I did the right thing by standing by this bill, and I did the right thing to represent the future children of Idaho.
Thank you very much, Representative. Are there any questions from the committee for the representative? All right, thank you so much. Representative Clark.
Chairman, if you would allow us to have one more speaker, we'd like to invite Beth Oppenheimer to this stand.
The committee calls Ms. Oppenheimer.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Beth Oppenheimer, and I am the Executive Director for the Idaho Association for the Education of Young Children. As a mother of two, I wholeheartedly support House Bill 586. And as an administrator and passionate supporter of early education, I see the importance of it. The Idaho Association for the Education of Young Children envisions a world where all children thrive at home, in the classroom, in childcare, or with their caretaker, teacher, early educator, or family member. We aim to advance Idaho's early learning profession and advocate for children and families. Our organization has vested members in a wide range of districts from both sides of the aisle, and each and every one of them stands in favor of this bill. I have personally put together outreach materials in support of the bill, which included analyzing data published by one of our partners, the Idaho Kids Count organization. According to this research and countless other studies, a child's brain begins developing immediately, with the majority of this development taking place between birth and the age of 5. Currently, only 56% of children entering kindergarten are at grade level, 56%. It is crucial that we implement a solid foundation now to solidify a bright future later. Some of you have brought up the issue of why not implementing full-day kindergarten. It's important that we start from the bottom and work our way up with improvements. If you insist upon full-day education, we would love and appreciate if you sponsored a bill of that sort. But today, we are looking to pre-education, and if we don't start now, then when will we? As we move forward, we must consider the long-term benefits of this piece of legislation. The bill proposes a voluntary program that makes economic sense. We must seize this valuable opportunity and remember that an investment in our children today is an investment in Idaho's future tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Oppenheimer. We commend you on the work that you do and your willingness to unite with other coalitions for the benefit of Idaho's children. Seeing that, are there any questions from the committee for Ms. Oppenheimer?
Mr. Chairman, will Ms. Oppenheimer yield to a question?
Ms. Oppenheimer, will you yield?
Chairman, Representative.
To the best of your knowledge, Ms. Oppenheimer, are there any public preschools in Idaho school districts, public preschool in Idaho school districts operating but not receiving state funding?
I have not looked into that area yet, but I would be happy to confer and get back to you on that matter.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the committee for Ms. Oppenheimer? All right, seeing none, thank you so much, Ms. Oppenheimer. And unless Representative Clark has any other supporters he would wish to testify, we would like to move over with the opponents of House Bill 586. The committee calls Representative Pete Nielsen to testify. Unless there is another order that the opposition would prefer.
Mr. Chairman, we would like to go in the order presented on the sign-in sheet.
All right, so Representative for the homeschoolers. Ms. Jamie Davis, on behalf of homeschoolers.
Good afternoon. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Jamie Davis, and I live in Meridian. I am standing here as a parent that homeschools my children, a daycare provider, and one of your constituents. I have read this piece of legislation backwards and forwards, and I'm here today to testify to you against House Bill 586 as it reads today. Currently, there are 589 licensed daycare providers in this great state of Idaho, serving approximately 44,500 children under the age of 5. The majority of child care providers earn less than $20,000 a year, and so to remove an entire age group would be detrimental to both our livelihoods and our families. Based on those facts alone, most providers choose this career because they care, not to line their pockets. I would like to take an opportunity to explain a few of the differences that would be between keeping your child in a daycare program versus placing them in a pre-kindergarten program. At age 4, you're still a child. You still require love, nurturing, and oftentimes a little extra help with personal needs such as toileting. A school is not allowed to help you with these needs, however, a daycare is. You have entrusted us to care for your child while you're away from them, and we take that responsibility very seriously. We're able to teach your children the alphabet, counting, colors, shapes, just as they would learn in a classroom. But we take it a step further with a more individualized care and attention. The bill before you states that an acceptable ratio is 22-1. A daycare, by law, is capped at 8-1 for a 4-year-old child. If you know any 4-year-olds, you know they're full of life and they've got a ton of energy. It would be extremely hard to keep track of 22 of them at once. As I stated, we're there for your child because we care and we realize that Idaho values families, and so do we. Please take this opportunity to stand up for our future generations and leaders and let them know that they are important. They deserve the love and caring that they don't always receive as just a number in a classroom. Please vote no on House Bill 586. Thank you very much, and I stand for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Does the committee have any questions for Ms. Davis in regards to her expertise in the daycare field? None? All right, seeing none, thank you again. And the committee will now call Representative, Executive Director Wayne Hoffman from the Freedom Foundation to testify.
Chairman, committee members, thank you very much for your time, and I'll try to keep this brief. As you may know, I'm Wayne Hoffman. I'm the Executive Director at the Idaho Freedom Foundation. And I'm here today because while I'm in favor of early childhood education, I'm not in favor of this bill. There's a few principles of this bill that I just don't feel align with Idaho's values. As I like to say, people look to government education for two things: sports and daycare. You can see with the testimony we had earlier from one of our representatives that that's true, and that just shouldn't be the case with our education here in Idaho. We already have government programs to meet some of the needs that have been brought up. Representative Clark had said that 55% or more would come from private funding for this pilot program. I would like to know who. I would like to know where these funders are, and in addition, if they're here to fund the pilot program, what about after that? How do we pay for this? How do we pay for preschool in state-funded preschool after the pilot program? It hasn't been discussed how we're going to fund it afterwards. So what's the point to fund the pilot if we don't have a plan for how we're going to fund it afterwards? Not to mention kindergarten is still voluntary in the state of Idaho. I would like to say that our current system is broken, it's mismanaged, it's misfunded, and we need to be focusing on how to better manage and better allocate the funds that we currently have in our K through 12 schooling. And in addition to that, it's going to get you nowhere if you do not have strong parental involvement. Education cannot work without involvement in the home, and we need to be focusing our efforts on that end, because if parents are involved now in the pre-K, they are not going to be involved later. Any sort of gains you hope to make just aren't going to be sustainable in the future if you don't have parents staying involved. And to further go on that point, parental involvement, as Representative Clark had said, it's not required. He said it was required. It is not. It is optional to opt out of the parental advising or participation. And in that case, then we're losing out on a very integral piece of pre-K education. It is not an Idaho value to expand our government. It does not need to be expanded into our homes. We need to be focusing our support on getting the resources that my own kids used, such as these educational videos from the Waterford Institute in Utah. I encourage you to look that up. There's many different programs and materials that can be used to educate every child based on their individual needs, because every child is different and one size does not fit all. In conclusion, I just would like to say that yes, Representative Perry, we do need to reorganize our priorities, like our priority we currently have to K through 12 funding. With that, I would just like to say that I am certainly for early childhood education in Idaho, but that this is not the bill that we need to fulfill those needs. And with that, I will open up for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Do we have any questions for the Executive Director from the committee?
Mr. Chairman, would Mr. Hoffman yield to a question?
Mr. Hoffman, will you yield?
Mr. Chairman, Representative.
Mr. Hoffman, I was visiting with our sheriff just recently, and he indicated to me the number of additional beds he's going to need based on third grade literacy rates and scores. Do you have any data to back this up or disprove this?
Well, I can, thank you, Representative. I can certainly tell you that's not my expertise, but what I can tell you is I understand Idaho values, and I understand that parents are going to play a much larger role in children's education and in children's values and, the things that cause them to grow up and be criminals in the first place. We need to be involving parents first and foremost. This program is not going to help with that.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Hoffman from the committee? I actually have a question, if you will yield, Mr. Hoffman.
Chairman.
So, do you have any concerns, and I imagine you do as an executive director of the Freedom Foundation, about using data via tracking 4-year-old children? Do you have any concerns about the privacy and invasion that creates, or that could create?
Chairman, thank you for the question. I absolutely do, as we all should. We should not be voluntarily giving up information on our 3- and 4-year-old children, of tracking them throughout the system. And might I add that the tracking is also optional. You can opt out of the program. You don't have to be tracked, in which case, even if you wanted to be using it for something good, I don't know, I don't trust it. There's nothing to hold you accountable to keep doing that.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. We really appreciate your expertise and your willingness to contribute your time.
Thank you.
The committee would now like to call Ms. Elena Perez on behalf of New Horizon Daycare Center.
Mr. Chairman, she's not testifying today.
Oh, I have on my sign-in sheet that she was wishing to testify. I'm sorry, that is my bad. Can we have Ms. Julie Lind on behalf of the Capstone Family Council? Thank you.
Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Julie Lindy, and I'm here today as the Executive Director of the Cornerstone Family Council. But more importantly, I'm here today as a parent, and I'm here today to represent the wishes of the parents. As a parent, this bill resounds with me. Our children's growth, development, and education are of the utmost importance. But because of this importance, this is something that needs to be handled by the family and needs to be influenced through the parents. Raising my children, it has been very important to me to instill my values, beliefs, and principles, and a faith in God, all of which I myself hold dear. The home has remained one of the last strongholds against outside influence, where parents can regulate the type of content that their children receive. The worry that I carry for my children is that as they enter the world, they will no longer be under my protective wing. But this has been lessened by the fact that I know I have instilled in them a strong sense of beliefs, and they have knowledge and they have faith in God that will help guide them in their choices and will help them make the right choice. I was able to instill these beliefs in them because I raised them in my home, and I kept them while they were young and while they were developing, and I instilled the beliefs that I was raised with into them, and I know that those beliefs will help them guide them in their life. It worries me that the government would be willing to take those children out of the home, out of a time when they are so young and when they are so developing, and put them where they won't be able to be instilled with religious beliefs that the families would be able to provide. And you know, it is the right of the parents to set the standards for their children and to raise them. And it would do the best for the children to be their teacher, nurturer, and caretaker. Are we truly going to allow the government to lessen and diminish the right that God has given us to care and nurture for our children? Will we sit idly by as our influence is reduced and we can no longer instill the values and beliefs in our children that would protect them from the temptations of the world around us? I'm asking you to look in the best interests of the children and their families, and to realize that what is best for them is to stay in their homes. Show your support for the traditional family values that we have here in Idaho, that we've been able to keep strong over the years as the degradation of other values and other family values has come around in our nation around us. And we have been able to maintain. And I hope with God's guidance, you will be able to choose the right decision and vote no to pass this bill. Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee.
Thank you, Ms. Lindy. Do we have any questions for Ms. Lindy on behalf of Capstone Family Council?
Mr. Chair, will Ms. Lindy yield to a question?
Will you yield?
Chairman, member of the committee, I'll yield.
Ms. Lindy, would you agree that the development of standardized daycare might be more beneficial than starting a new program, and why?
Standardized daycare in U.S. is it would be a private industry, and that would offer choices, and it would offer a free market competition, which will allow for the maximized quality in daycare. Free market competition produces, benefits to the special interests, and it produces the best quality because they are competing with each other, whereas a state-regulated program would be stagnant and would just remain at the levels, whereas each daycare would be competing with each other to have a higher quality and would produce higher standards and more developed children.
Thank you, Ms. Lindy. Do we have any other questions from the committee? All right, seeing none, thank you very much for your willingness to donate your time and your expertise. All right. Next, the committee would like to call Representative Nielsen to testify. Is that the correct order?
Yes, Ms.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, as you know, I am Representative Pete Nielsen from Mountain Home, and I stand firmly opposed to House Bill 586. Currently, as this bill is written, it does not address the broken K-12 education system or the true issues in the current education system that citizens across our great state are citing. In the top 5 most important improvement student achievement strategies that citizens across our great state have cited, preschool and pre-K programs are not even on the list. They have cited smaller class sizes, parental involvement, high-quality teachers, extra learning opportunities, and full-day kindergarten as more important than preschool programs. First of all, let's look at the high-quality teachers that are needed that this program takes away from. It is important to recognize that nurturing and caring only go so far in the teaching profession. According to the Idaho Press Tribune, the salary of Idaho educators has a starting average of only $29,000 a year, which is 47th in the country. How can we expect quality teachers to stay in Idaho and educate our children if we are overworking them and underpaying them while limiting their access to quality resources to help children succeed? By funding programs such as pre-K, we are taking necessary funds needed to fix already detrimental problems within the education system. Second of all, we need to recognize that full-day kindergarten programs are not implemented. Additionally, cited across the state by citizens, this is twice as important as the implementation of any preschool program. While I do recognize the importance of early education and the development of children's learning, by implementing a pre-K program without full-day kindergarten, we're putting the cart before the horse. The state of our K-12 education system does not currently have the resources to support and encourage the sustainment and development of the skills that those in support of this bill hope to achieve. Even if a child were to be able to participate in this pre-K system, there's no guarantee that they would go on to kindergarten, which would make the benefits of this program null because of the fact that the skills they learned would disappear. By taking House Bill 586 off the table, we are given the opportunity to focus on K-12 reformation and the sustained development of skills for all of Idaho's students and future leaders, not just a small, underrepresented portion of them. In addition to avoiding the current education issues, this bill itself is lacking in many ways. First of all, the proposed funding of this bill is unavailable. As stated in the bill, state funding is expected to match 65% of the private funding for the pre-K program in the first year and 82% the following 2 years. The issue of the lack of funds available for this type of program is one that is detrimental and very obvious. Additionally, Idaho currently only invests 3.5% of the Idaho state budget into K-12 education and has cut $250 million in recent years. Additionally to that, Idaho is currently ranked 47th in per pupil spending at a rate of only $8,000. We have an obligation to the students within our state, all of the students within our state, to let them know loud and clear that we believe in their futures by investing in their current educations. Furthermore, the pilot program, as I've stated, is unrepresentative of Idaho students. At maximum, only 110 would participate in this program, which is less than 1% representation of students across the state. And as the chairman brought up, only 5 districts out of 114 from across the state at maximum would be able to participate. Furthermore, school districts are given the opportunity to decline participation in total, as well as to opt out before the completion of the 3-year program. This underrepresentation leads to the potential for skewness of local data that this pilot program is supposedly trying to collect. Another big issue is parental involvement, and for this bill, as it's currently written, is optional. One of the greatest needs for early education is parental involvement. However, this bill's provisions allow parents to decline participation. This concerns me as this is a crucial element to the success of early education overall. Possibly the most important hole to look at within this bill is that there is no clear logistical plan for implementation of the pilot program. The hours per day, days per week, and ways in which participating schools would be chosen, as well as which institutions would privately fund this pilot program, are undefined as this bill is currently presented. The cost is too great and the wait time for return is too long to implement a program with no concrete logistics for implementation. I ask that you all consider the fact that we should be investing in all of Idaho's students, not just a select underrepresented portion of them. All of Idaho's students are important. We're priming them all to be future leaders. Therefore, a pre-K program, while early education is important, is not yet on the horizon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative Nielsen. We appreciate your expertise and your dedication. Do we have any questions from the committee for Representative Nielsen at this time?
I do, Mr. Chair.
Representative Nielsen, will you yield?
Chairman, Representative.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Nielsen, there was a study done that demonstrated that there was a fade out in the benefits of the Head Start program by grade 3. Parallel to this program, I'm curious if you're familiar with that study, and if you are, can you speak to it in relationship to this pre-K bill?
Can I ask you to please rephrase the question?
Sure, Chairman. Representative Nielsen. There was a study done that concluded that Head Start wasn't as beneficial in the long run as it was deemed to be, that actually the benefits ended by 3rd grade. Can you speak to that?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, I think the important thing to realize is that while I am not familiar with that study, the Annie E. Casey Foundation actually published in the first 8 years that it is important for children to be proficient in reading by the end of 3rd grade. That being said, if we were to take this bill off of the table and focus once again on K-12 education, we could still find the benefits in K through 3rd grade that the proponents of this bill are saying can only be found in pre-K studies.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Are there any other questions for the representative from the committee?
Mr. Chairman, would Representative Nielsen yield to a question?
Representative Nielsen.
Chairman, Representative.
I do very much appreciate your concern for the funding for this potential bill. However, I'd also like to consider the fact that 40 other states in our country have some sort of preschool curriculum. So taking that into consideration, and also the fact that Idaho ranks nearly last in education quality, how would adding a preschool program not contribute to Idaho's education? And furthermore, considering our nation's position in comparison to our global competitors, how could you disagree that additional education would not be seen as a benefit for the United States of America?
Representative, I think the important thing to realize is that our K through 12 education does not currently have the resources to sustain any potential developments in education that a pre-K program could implement. That being said, it's also important to look at the fact that we may not even be able to gain legitimate data from this study because it's such an underrepresented portion of students across Idaho. We do believe in early education. However, we also believe that in order to sustain any development, we need to focus on the education that we'll be getting these students through until they're 18 years old before we even think about adding another program to try and fund and try and develop.
Thank you very much, Representative Nielsen. Are there any other questions for the representative from the committee at this time? All right, seeing none, thank you very much for your time. The committee would now ask that Representative High Clock give a brief summation in support of House Bill 586, the Idaho Kindergarten Preparedness Program. Representative Clock, whenever you're ready.
Mr. Chairman, committee, again, thank you so much for hosting this hearing of House Bill 586. You've heard a lot of points, and I just want to reiterate the things that we have discussed here today. That this is a voluntary program, that we admire the work that homeschoolers have committed to their children and have committed to the values at home. And we want to support their endeavors and also create equal opportunities for parents who can't see themselves doing such actions. We want you to know that we support those daycare programs, and if the parents believe that their child is getting better support, then we want them to stay there and want the parents to know that it is their choice when it comes to child care and that it is not the government's choice. There was questioning about funding for K through 12 education, and we want you to know that we believe in all education. And as discussed previously, the brain develops very soon in childhood development, and getting this pre-kindergarten act may be able to help children around get ready for kindergarten and first grade and second grade and third grade and be able to improve our school systems that way. Also, there are currently no bills on the floor discussing K through 12 education. And if you'd like to, I would love to write up a bill with you for future endeavors. We talked about the private sector and how we are getting at least 55% of the funding from such places. And I know as they see an investment and a return from that place, they will be more interested in investing in not only our pre-kindergarten education, but our K through 12 education, and I am willing to work with them to do such. And remember, an investment in our children's education is an investment for their future and for Idaho's future. We'll yield the questions.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
All right, it looks like we have a couple of questions for you, Representative Clock, at this time. Representative Rubel, if you would like to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Representative Clock, I just want to make it known that according to a recent census, 55% of Idaho's children are living in low-income households. And in addition to that, of 3- and 4-year-olds, 69 to 78% of these children are not enrolled in preschool. And only 20% of low-income children have access to programs like Head Start. So my concern and question is, how is this not our responsibility?
I think, Chairman, Representative Rubel, I think your concern is absolutely correct. And we want to recognize those that are doing the in-homes things, the homeschooling, and we want to congratulate what they're doing. Yes, this program also provides the opportunity for those who don't have access to it to get that. And as I've said before, we've tried to get bills through the legislature, and they were defeated because of the high cost and the initial startup. And we hope that, even though it's so small, that we can receive good data from it and that we can see the potential from it. And that is why we have this bill here today.
Thank you, Representative Clark.
Thank you.
All right, Representative Clark, will you yield to a question from Representative Pence?
Chairman, Representative Pence.
Representative Clark, I noticed that there are no standards for this pilot program. Would you agree, for consistent and beneficial results, that a standardization of pre-kindergarten is necessary?
I believe that a certain standard is necessary to ensure that, because this is a pilot program, that we are leveling, I guess, sort of the playing field, and that we're making sure our data is appropriate. So I am an educator myself, a former teacher, and with that, I am willing and want to work with the teachers that are currently in the system to create a standard on that. And I can amend that to the current bill.
Mr. Chairman, I do want to make a comment.
All right, Representative Rubel.
Thank you. If I do want to let everyone know that if this bill is progressed, the Idaho Board of Education will be releasing standards for this program.
Thank you, Representative Rubel. Thank you, Representative Clark. Any follow-up, Representative Pence? All right, thank you. Do we have any other questions from the committee for Representative Clark?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Wills? Excuse me, Representative Clark, will you yield?
Chairman, Representative Wills.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Clark, for clarity, I'm curious how many days per week this preschool will be in operation?
I believe as we see this bill go further through the legislature that we will be able to contribute more concrete details and work with the Department of Education to do such.
Okay, no ballpark? 3 days, 5 days?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative Clark. Are there any other questions from the committee before Representative Clark finishes? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. Committee.
Seeing no other questions from the committee at this time, I will now entertain motions.
Mr. Chairman, fellow committee members, I move to send House Bill 586 to the floor with a due pass.
All right, thank you, Representative Rubel. Are there any other motions on the floor at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I move to make a substitute motion that we hold this bill in committee.
Thank you, Representative. Are there any other motions on the floor at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I move we send number Bill 586 to the amending order for committee amendments, which would add standards for the pilot program.
Thank you, Representative Pence. We will now vote on the motion made by Representative Pence. Actually, Representative Pence, can you please give a statement in support of your motion, explaining it?
As I support that we need to have a measure of standardization for this program for it to continue.
Debate is now open on this motion. Are there any other comments or concerns?
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment.
Representative Rubel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, fellow committee members, as I just stated, if this bill does pass, the Idaho Department of Education will be implementing standards, so I don't believe that we need to send it to general order for amendment.
Thank you, Representative Rubel. Are there any other comments or discussion at this time? Seeing no other discussion, Vice Chairman, would you please call a roll call vote on this motion? On the amended substitute motion to send House Bill 586, the Kindergarten Preparedness Act, to general orders with an amendment including standards for the education provided by the Kindergarten Preparedness Program.
Representative Wills.
No.
Representative Pence.
Yes.
Representative Rubel.
No.
I vote yes. Representative DeMorton.
No. Seeing a 3-2 vote, the amendment to send House Bill 586, the Kindergarten Preparedness Act, to general orders with an amendment providing for standards of education, this motion fails. To the next motion made by Representative Horman to move the to leave the bill in, or hold the bill in committee. The floor is now open for debate. Is there any discussion in the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment.
Yes, Representative Rubel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to say that holding this bill in committee would essentially kill it and therefore destroy all of the hard work that our representatives have done in order to, in hopes of implementing this huge change that would be such a benefit to our state.
Thank you, Representative Rubel. Is there any other debate or discussion about this motion from the committee members? Representative Horman, do you have anything to say about your motion?
I do. I would just like to first start by saying thank you to everyone who presented today, and thank you for coming here and presenting your cases. However, after working on the governor's task force, it was not recommended that this be sent to the floor. It's not fiscally responsible, and I would just like to emphasize that I personally would like to prioritize improving our education system's quality before quantity.
Thank you, Representative Horman. Is there any other debate or discussion in the committee about this motion? All right, seeing none, Vice Chairman Horman, would you please call for a roll call vote on the motion to hold House Bill 586, the Kindergarten Preparedness Program, in committee?
Representative Wills.
I'm sorry?
We were doing roll call.
Oh, no, to hold.
Okay. Representative Pence.
No.
Representative Rubel.
No.
I vote yes. Representative DeMorton.
I also vote yes. Seeing a 3-2 once more, this motion also fails. The bill will not be held in committee. The final motion on the floor is to send it to, the final motion on the floor made by Representative Rubel. Can you please elaborate on your motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to say that I believe that the data supports the benefit that Idaho would see from implementing this program. I would also like to say thank you to my fellow representatives who have put so much work into making this such a priority in our state.
Thank you, Representative Rubel. Is there any other debate or discussion in the committee about this motion? Any other? All right, I have something to say about this motion, actually. Considering the lack of standards that this preschool education program will actually hold implementers to, and considering that it is a drastic underrepresentation of the widespread education system in the state of Idaho, all of the school districts, out of all of those school districts, only at most 5 of them, and within those school districts, so few preschools, a drastic underrepresentation of any type of implementable benefits that we are attempting to use or will attempt to use to project future benefits is incredibly misleading and a misuse of data, in my opinion. Additionally, I would like to say that this is not where our money should be spent. As someone who has spent many years in the education system in Idaho and is a avid supporter of improving our children's learning opportunities and abilities, this money needs to be spent in the K through 12 programs that are currently 48th in the nation. We should be focusing on improving quality rather than quantity of educational opportunities provided to our children. That is all I have to say on this. Vice Chairman Horman.
I would just like to second your concern with the financial aspect. I am very concerned about the financial implications that this would have for our state, and that is really my main reason for being cautious with sending this to the floor, and that's all I have to say.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to counter your statement.
Representative Rubel, the floor is open for debate.
Thank you. I would like to highlight the fact that this is a voluntary program. This is a pilot program. Therefore, if we need to better our overall education, we need to start somewhere, and I believe the earlier we start, the better.
Thank you, Representative Rubel. I am also a fond proponent of educating our children at any and all ages, truly. However, I don't believe in providing our children with low quality, less than appropriate grade education and preparing them for a low grade education. I don't think we're going to realize any severe economic benefits from encouraging our state to provide a moderate, watered down education system that does not accurately prepare our workforce. If we were going to realize those economic benefits, they would not only be in a single year of pre-kindergarten preparedness. No economic benefits are realized only in the year when you are 4 years old and when you are 5 years old. It comes in the 12 years of schooling after that as well. Fundamentals are not enough. Learned skills are more than that. If we are going to see any success of a preschool preparedness program, of any type of pre-kindergarten educational program, it will have to be in accordance with a supplementary education that comes in all of the years after that preschool program. It will have to be in education that utilizes any skills taught then, and upon that, it will have to make sure that that preschool program actually teaches instrumental and valuable skills, not in a 1:22 ratio, and that is actually going to give our children an educational opportunity to utilize skills and prepare skills for kindergarten, for the years after kindergarten, for elementary school. My position on this bill is very clear. I don't believe in providing a low-grade education, in expanding low-grade education, and putting money where we do not need money to currently be. This is a drastic point in Idaho's education system. We do not need to be investing in another pilot program that will only affect 3 districts out of 114 in the entire state of Idaho, and that will only provide educational opportunities that are going to be utilized and capitalized on by an education system from K through 12 that is 48th in the nation. That is not quality education, and that is not expanding educational opportunities. That is distracting from the real problem, which is the quality of our education system from ages 1 to 18, and this does not solve that. Thank you. Is there any other discussion or debate on the floor? Or, excuse me, in the committee?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, Representative Wills.
I think we need to look outside the benefits or lack thereof of education. You're correct in the quality over quantity assertion, but as a retired police officer, I think we need to look at the benefits of the decreased crime rate in the state of Idaho, and I believe that any and all resources that we can put towards decreasing that crime rate and those expenditures should be implemented.
Thank you, Representative Wills. I think that was a very well-articulated statement. However, I don't see a connection between providing an additional year of low-grade educational opportunities and decreased crime rates. I think how well you perform in the workforce and what you do after you graduate or don't graduate from high school is highly dependent on those 12 years of schooling after kindergarten, as well as that 1 additional year of preschool or pre-kindergarten education. I don't think that's an accurate leap to say that because we provide this additional year, we're going to realize all of these hoped and truly things that we do want to see in our society, but I don't think that, putting all of those on a single year of preschool education is going to be an accurate prediction.
Mr. Chair, if I could,
Representative Wills?
Thank you. It's in the data that the decrease in crime rate by 20% presented by Representative Perry. The 1 year may seem insignificant, but in the data it has a significant and a substantial decrease.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but that was data lent by other states that have implemented preschool programs that are probably not 48th in the nation in terms of education after preschool.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Representative Pence.
I would like to add to Mr. Rick Wills. Research has shown that the most essential part of a child's development is pre-K, during pre-K. And despite you're emphasizing the continued quality of education from K through 12, however, pre-K being the most important in a child's development seems of enough justification for implementing pre-kindergarten.
I really respect what you have articulated there, Representative Pence, and I would certainly agree that the neurological science studies that have proven that this is an integral period in a child's life are not to be disputed, and that's not what we're arguing here. However, I don't think that the best way to capitalize on that key part of a child's life is with a 1 to 22 cap limit, or an education program that has zero standards, an education program that limits the opportunities of parents to become involved, or that necessitates that they're involved very little, actually. I don't think that is the best way to capitalize on that integral window in a child's life. I think the best way to do that would be to have something that really makes the most out of what we can teach children during that opportunity, and that also allows for parents to teach children as much as they can. Really, I don't think that we can solve for equal opportunities for children by providing a outlet that seems to equalize the playing field, but in reality is just providing a substitute that's in fact worse off than the alternative we currently have. Is there any other debate or discussion on the floor? Excuse me, in the committee. All right, seeing none. Vice Chairman Harmon, would you please call for a roll call vote?
Representative Wills?
Yes.
Excuse me, let me clarify. A roll call vote on the motion to send to the House floor with a due pass recommendation, House Bill 586, the Kindergarten Preparedness Program for Idaho students.
Representative Wills?
Still yes.
Representative Pence? Yes. Representative Rugel?
Yes.
I vote no. Representative DeMorden?
No. Seeing a 3-2 vote once again, the committee will send House Bill 586, the Kindergarten Preparedness Program, to the House floor with a due pass recommendation. Thank you, committee members. Thank you to everyone who testified today. This meeting is adjourned.